Happy CX Day, everyone, and welcome to what we all know is one of my favorite days of the year. I hope it is yours too, CX Day. I'm Gabe Smith, CCXP. I'm the content manager and associate director for the Customer Experience Professionals Association, or CXPA. And I'm so happy and excited to be with you this CX Day because I get to spend some time with our friends in Canada. And we're here to get you started with a really invigorating panel discussion on what are some CX accomplishments across Canada over the past year. And we know, because you just saw it in that intro, that the theme of our CX Day is CX is a team sport. So, we know that to achieve that ultimate success, we have to have a great CX team behind us. It's that team working together that can really achieve that at maximum success. So we're going to be tackling some key questions like, what exactly makes a great CX team? How do you build that team? How do you maintain that team? And diving in deep with the panelists around what are really the critical factors to moving your career forward and achieving that success for your organizations and then also for yourselves. So I'm so excited to be facilitating that discussion today with today's panelists. So without further ado, here they are.
Good morning and happy CX Day from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. My name is Lawrence Levinson, CCXP with Wave Advisors.
Hi, I'm Sandra Greene. Happy CX Day. I'm coming to you from Toronto, Canada, and I am President and Chief Strategist for SG Consulting.
Hello, I'm Catherine from Montreal. I'm a lead CX at Valtech Canada, but this year I've been on the bench because I was in maternity leave. So,
good morning and happy CX Day, everybody. This is Firas Mahasen coming from Toronto, Canada. Glad to see you all here, and thank you, Gab, for the invitation.
So great to see you all and have you here on this panel, and happy CX Day, everybody. So want to get started because one of the things I love about CX Day, we get a chance to celebrate our CX accomplishments over the past year and talk about things that we're particularly proud of. I've said, I was telling someone the other day that as CX professionals, I think we're very critical. We think about all the things that we have yet to accomplish, all the processes that we have yet to improve, the culture that we are still aspiring to create, the governance model that we're still helping to get exactly right, that sometimes it's hard to step back and celebrate, but yet CX Day gives us a chance to do that. So I want to hear from each one of you on what's something that you are particularly proud of that you've been able to accomplish over the past year. So Lawrence, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Sure, thanks, Gabe. This past year has been a long but phenomenal year. And, although it felt like it was moving quite slowly in the moment, reflecting back at how quickly we're almost into October is insanity. So in terms of CX accomplishments that I'm proud of over the last year, I'd say being finalists in both the International Customer Experience Awards and the North American Customer Centricity Awards made me feel really proud to work for Wave and to lead the Wave Advisors team. So many companies talk about customer data and voice of customer programs, but rarely do they take the bold move to make such a big bet on actually listening, building, and optimizing to them. Wave Advisors was really born out of direct customer feedback. Effectively users saying, I really love this software tool, but I don't actually want to use it. Can I pay you guys to take this pain away? And when most companies are confronted with these scenarios, they shy away from the opportunity, citing them as not our business or not what we want to build or become. I'm super excited and proud to lead a team that steps up to this every day and empower the small business owner to live their passions undistracted. Being recognized for our commitment to this is really satisfying and tells us that we're on the right path.
Lawrence, that's fantastic. Stated so well. Congratulations on that, and congratulations also on the recognition for your work. That's always so gratifying and fulfilling. So congrats on that. Sandra, I want to come to you next. What's something you're particularly proud of that you've accomplished over the past year?
I'm really proud of the Toronto network. The group was able to do a bunch of surveys of our members, and we really wanted to understand what did they need from us, particularly with the pandemic. We found out they needed training, really intensive training. They needed Canadian success stories, and they needed to do more networking with other local CXers. And so we developed a lot of curriculum and events with that in mind. And we've been able to do intensive CX boot camp. We've done a customer-centric culture session. We're doing one about how COVID has changed the trajectory of CX. We're spotlighting our sponsors and so on. We're doing some work that people are really finding helpful. So I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And one of the things I love so much about the CX community is that, we say CX is a team sport. We tend to think about, our immediate teams, the teams that we work with in our organizations and our coworkers. And yet, the CXPA networks have really broadened that concept of team to be inclusive of helping your fellow CX professional grow in their careers and giving them the tools that they need to advance CX in their organization. So kudos to you and the entire team there. Fantastic. Catherine.
Thanks.
You have had a tremendous accomplishment this past year in terms of, making another human life. So, nothing can really compare to that, but like you to try to say, what's something that you're proud of related to CX over the last year?
Yes, Gabe, as I mentioned, I was in maternity leave, so I kind of say, I'm on the bench of my team at Valtech because they run so many fantastic projects, but I wasn't there. I learned about that. I see what they do. They're doing a fantastic job, and I'm proud of that because it's cool that they are doing such a great job, even if I'm not there. But one of the things that I've worked a lot this year is, as I say, I'm on the bench, and I remember when I was younger, I was playing basketball, and for 1 year, I've been put on the bench because I was like the youngest one and maybe not the best one. But all that year, I just learn and like train and acquire new skills, which make me the year after a very much better player. And this year, I work on that. I'm working on a lot of content creation and educational content creation. I'm teaching undergraduate students CX since 2017, and I'm working right now on a project for new knowledge creation for CX student, CX professional, and this content will be in French. So I'm pretty proud of that work that I'm doing right now.
Catherine, that is fantastic, and I love your perspective. Describe yourself as on the bench, but sort of still in the game, and that you're still learning, you're still growing, you're still advancing your own knowledge and that of the people around you. And, so exciting to hear about the French content development because, one of the announcements that we're making here on CX Day is that very soon the CCXP exam will be available in French as our first non-English language. So
Yes.
very exciting that we have French resources to help support that. And then French speaking CX professionals will be able to take the exam in the language of their choice. So very, very exciting there. And kudos to you on all of those accomplishments. So Firas, over to you, something that you're really proud of during the last year.
Yeah, so on personal level, I call it an exploratory year. This year has provided me with a great opportunity to work closely with several organizations, starting with CXPA by having the honor to be a judge for the CX Impact Award 2020, being a participant on the Book of Knowledge, the new book that we are writing with a group of CX professionals. I got to know more CX Toronto network. We established a new committee, like CX Job Search Committee, to help CX professional here. I worked with private companies in the US and Canada. I learned more about different industries, trends, and challenges. It's a learning year for me, to be honest.
Firas, that's fantastic. You know, we're all striving to constantly learn and grow, and love your contributions to CXPA, including serving as an Impact Award judge. And I know you'll be joining us a little bit later on today for the Impact Award live reveal show as well. So excited to see the winners of our Impact Award this year. And speaking of CX successes, we want to give a huge thanks to our CX Day sponsors, each of whom makes this panel and all that we're doing on CX Day really possible. This year, we've created online homes for each sponsor. These pages include some great resources, downloadable content, and even some really nice giveaways. Please take a moment to visit these pages and, of course, to thank these organizations for their great support of CX, CX Day, and CXPA. So one of the things that I think is really great about CX Day and having these conversations is we get a chance to understand some companies in your country, in your region, that are particularly CX focused that others may not be aware of. You know, I know I've had a great time learning about customer focused companies in Brazil, in Africa, in Australia, in Europe, all around the world, companies that are really focused on the customer and aligned around what the customer wants. So would love to hear from each of you around some companies that you feel are particularly CX focused. And for us, let me stay with you for this question.
Yeah, so in general, Canadians are known for their kindness. I like to say thank you, sorry, and these kind of words. Now, there are many companies, to be honest, that are CX focused in Canada, but I'll focus on the local ones because they have greater ability to provide personalized experience. And this is for me and like for many people that what we are looking for. Like on top of my mind, I will like mention, like, for example, I dealt with a local marketing firm. They are called Livity Consultancy. They are kind of new, but their service is unbelievably outstanding. They worked with me to achieve the goal, my goal, not to fulfill the agreement. The way these companies establish this success relationship rather than being service provider gives you the feeling of trust and happiness. And this is what we are looking for.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Trust and happiness. I love that. That sounds fantastic. And, you know, built from the ground up to achieve the customer agenda. It's great for us. Catherine, over to you. What are some companies in your area that you feel like are particularly CX focused?
There is a lot of great company, but I wanted this year to congratulate and put on the stand a lot of like government like entities that work a lot on CX project and improving. We see a lot of like new tender offer, like new project that are run by government entities. So they hire more and more CX expert. They are a consultant to improve the citizen experience in many services. So that's I think it's a great news for us. I know that Investissement Québec with Stéphanie Levasseur, which is a CXPA member, I've worked a lot in the last 2 years on CX initiative. She did a lot of conference. We can hear about that, what Investissement Québec did. But also, like, since 3 to 4 years, we see a lot Hydro-Québec, which is our energy provider in Quebec, and also Retraite Québec, which is a fund pension government plan in Quebec. I don't know if it's the right expression, but they do a lot of great work on customer experience. There is ACQ, which is alcohol store that do a lot of great work on CX. And I think they have a big ship to turn around, and we kind of start to see improvement. And this year, I just wanted to say congratulations because they've worked a lot on CX, and we started to see some improvement on.
That's fantastic. And I mean, I think one of the things I've learned over the last year is that really seeing the emergence of CX in governments, not just here in North America, but around the world. So really gratifying to see. Sandra, over to you. CX, some CX focused companies that you want to call out.
I've actually found ChaptersIndigo has done a really good job in listening to customers. We've had a competitive year in terms of Amazon and others that are selling books online and not being able to have an in-store experience. But what they've done really well is they've set up customer panels, they've got closed loop, and what they have done with their recommendation engine, I find really inspiring. The books that they are recommending indeed end up being books that I love. So they've done a great job with that, being customer focused. So kudos to them.
Sandra, that's fantastic. And, I love you describing the recommendation engine. I'm so glad that that's something that's a success because, so often we see recommendations that the algorithm is serving up and it's not perhaps exactly in line with our tastes. So great to hear that.
Exactly.
That's a success story. Lawrence, over to you.
So I have a whole, I have a whole bunch of examples of companies that touched my life in a positive way. And for those that know me well, I draw a lot of inspiration from click and collect programs that remove friction involved in, the simple journeys like having to park and run into a store. And I was a big fan of these before COVID. And so, during COVID, this became even so much more truer. But in this case, I want to draw attention to Mary Wong and her team at Alive Holistic Health, which is an acupuncture and Chinese medicine clinic in downtown Toronto. When COVID hit and lockdowns were all upon us, it felt like, the game was over and just simply couldn't be played until things opened up again. People needed their treatments and couldn't get to the clinic. And, you can imagine the creativity that needed to happen in order to keep acupuncture going without in-person visits. And this team really listened to customers who just, wouldn't take no for an answer. And they found the solution, these acupatches that you could ship to your house, have delivered, jump on a virtual consultation, and have the patches applied virtually so that you were still maintaining the effect that you would have in the office. And then, of course, the office opened again and things are, back to normal and all the typical customer experience principles apply, but they're still selling these patches and it's still working out well. And I just thought it was one of the more out of the box creative ways of approaching an obstacle like this.
That's fantastic. And, it also gives me a chance to try to make a analogy about how CX is like acupuncture and that we're all targeting pressure points. So I'll save my jokes perhaps for another CX day. Okay. So, one of the things I love about CX Day is we get a chance to talk about specific regional hot issues that are impacting customers, that are impacting the CX profession, that are impacting CX professionals in the region. So I'd love to hear from each of you on what are some of those hot issues. What are you seeing? What are you hearing out there as you work in your network, as you go to attending virtual networking meetings? What are you hearing about hot issues that are impacting our discipline? And Sandra, I'll start with you on this.
One of the hot issues that I've seen is people really understanding the power of journey mapping, where they may in the past have just been wanting to create a beautiful picture and put it on the wall and say, okay, done. I'm now seeing companies really using the insights from journey mapping and making changes. So not lip service, but actual real impact being made by getting the cross-functional teams together, really listening to what customers have to say, and then taking those pain points and risks and opportunities and doing something with it. So I think that's one of the biggest things I've been seeing over the last year, and I love it.
That's fantastic. Great to hear. Lawrence, what are you hearing and seeing?
Tied specifically to journey mapping and just kind of the main friction points that I'm seeing popping up in them over the last several months, as we're the tail end or still in, whatever we want to call this phase of COVID, is waiting times and accessibility tied to channel choice, right? With more people working remotely right now and having folks sitting at home and having almost, there's two sides to the coin. They're less patient for things that aren't relevant to them and for those pain points. But on the flip side, you're sitting at home, you have a break over lunch, and so you'll pick up the phone, and it seems like more people are taking the time to call a customer service line to voice a complaint or take more time to fill out surveys than than we've previously seen. And so, the companies that are addressing that and giving, choices of if you're sitting on a phone line and after 5 minutes, you have the option of dialing in your own number and they'll call you back in 15 minutes. Like, those are the companies that are winning right now, as opposed to sitting there for 45 minutes going, man, I have to get back to my meeting.
Definitely hear you on that and identify with that totally. Catherine, what are you seeing and hearing related to hot issues?
Yeah, and I push with what Lauren say. I think what I heard a lot is that we push everybody during COVID, but we don't push. We had everybody needed to go online during COVID, and I think that what is needed right now, what is the challenge, is that one of the issue is about aligning all the channels together to make sure that the experience is seamless. And it's connected, so people are now used to go online. They are used to go shopping, so they won't experience. They don't want to go to a store if the stock is not available, so they need to be able to sit online and all those kind of like making sure that all the experience are great. And the other thing I see a lot, and it's something that's a lot of interest for me, so maybe I'm biased on the fact that I love that subject, and that's why I think it's a hot issue right now. It's everything related to the fact that customers are more knowledgeable about the right. They are more and more knowledgeable. Many customers have lost confidence around company because of like data breach, because of a dark pattern that we had in the past where we tried to trick user to do things so we can get their email or stuff like that. But also all the word of mouth and peer review that's so important. So company needs to regain that trust that they had on customer. It's not about just sales. It's about like creating a relation. I think it's really important. So every customer interaction experience is at stake of that being reviewed and being diffused to everybody. So this is two issues that I see. I see a lot of them. I put a list of like 10, but I'll say those two for now.
Right. No, that's great. And Firas, you've had a chance to reflect on this as well. What are some hot issues that you're seeing crop up in the region?
Yeah, as like mentioned by the other colleagues, I think personalization and communication are the hot issues nowadays. Like, the past year has been a challenging year for businesses and has impacted the customer service and operations. Like, as people now are more comfortable with online and digital module, the businesses needs to find a solution to address this new reality. I read several reports like stating that customers nowadays cares more about customer experience than they did before COVID. And they are more sensitive and more exposed to options because of online. A tiny friction in a customer journey can make or break customer loyalty, thus business revenue.
Yeah, great point. I find myself less patient with badly or poorly designed processes. Certainly feel that way. Less tolerance for those sorts of things in my own life as a customer. So great perspective for us. So a question for the group. Because, I think CX Day, time of celebration, a time of hopefulness, a time of looking for the future as well. What most excites each of you about the future of CX in Canada? So, Catherine, I'll start with you on this one.
Yes, I think one of the things that's very exciting and bring me a lot of enthusiasm is that there is a lot of person contacting me to get information about how to train to become CX expert or how to do the CCXP certification. So there's a lot of enthusiasm about like developing the CX skills. And also I see more and more new job opening related to CX role in all organizations. So and we see more job description that are related really to CX, because previously we see customer experience, but it wasn't related really to the real role of a CX expert. And I see more and more job description that are really related. So a lot of like interest about the role and the CXP, and a lot of job opening in CX. So that's a great news.
Yeah, Catherine, that aligns with my experience as well. Looking at CX job postings and seeing the number of postings that have CCXP preferred or CCXP required, and just sort of seeing the explosion in that growth very much aligns with what you were saying. Sandra, what's most exciting to you as you think about the future of CX?
Honestly, what is most exciting to me is watching the power shift away from companies that were all about just profit at all cost towards the customer experience and the employee experience. So whether if it's about the great resignation with so many people no longer tolerating bad work environments, or it's about customers who are choosing companies that are aligned with their values and deciding who they do and do not want to have business with. I really like seeing this shift in power, and companies that were already working on CX already have that that advantage right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Great perspective, and would love for the viewers to share their perspective as well. So would love to get your comments here around what is most exciting to you as you think about the future of CX in your region, if you're in Canada, or if you just happen to be watching this panel. Would love to hear from you about what's most exciting to you. So Lawrence, over to you. What's most exciting?
At CXPA in Canada, we're watching our membership grow, and along the lines of what all my colleagues described today, all this great momentum in the profession is super exciting. With more CCXPs popping up every day, it's really promising that CX as a discipline is really cementing its spot at the executive table, across all industries. And that's really hopeful for employees, for customers, and for the communities they serve. I'm also super excited about all the amazing work that CX pros are doing in Canada, like everyone on this panel. The Toronto board, as Sandra alluded to, there's countless initiatives that are just so exciting that we're going to be launching. And most importantly, as you said it before, Gabe, their willingness to support each other and guide each other through their programs, or as Firas was talking about, their job searches. I really, truly believe and feel that we are better positioned than we've ever been before.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree, Lawrence. Seeing the evolution of CX, over the last several years, from, this club of people that were just sort of trying to figure things out together and get through and do the best they could, to having really established practices, sharing successful methodologies, and establishing CX as the critical business discipline that it is. That growth has just been remarkable to see. So for us, what's exciting to you as you think about the future?
Yeah, watching the CX, how it's evolving. The customer experience is becoming a must-have in every company. The role of traditional communication and transactional channels, such as contact center, website, will have to change now. Customer behaviors has changed. Their expectations have gone digital. There is no turning back. It used to be that customer experience was the only way to differentiate your brand. But now companies need to adapt the customer experience to maintain the momentum, find a way to stay closer to their customers, and deliver consistent communication across different channels.
Yeah, the evolution from nice to have to must have, absolutely. So, we've talked a bit about this idea of team, and CX is a team sport, and team having multiple meanings, but would love to get each of your perspectives on what exactly is it that makes a great high-performing CX team. Like, let's try to unpack this a little bit. So Lawrence, would like to start with you on this one. What makes a great team in your view?
I'd say diversity. And when I mean diversity in terms of thought and approach to better understanding problems from different perspectives and their solutions. I always encourage teams that I work with, whether it's in a corporate setting or in a board setting like CXPA, to really speak their minds. And dissent is so critically important to continuous improvement. Without it, you can be an army of one, right? That doesn't really get a lot of traction. And I find this is an element that gets lost a lot in customer experience, because we're so empathetic that we often don't want to disagree with each other when dissent is required. And of course, it needs to be respectful and it needs to be professional. But organizations that don't have it, if you have a team of 6 people on the CX team and they're all 100% aligned with every initiative, I would suggest they may be asleep at the wheel.
Healthy dissent is a good thing. Absolutely. Totally agree with you on that, Lawrence. Great perspective. Sandra, what makes a great CX team?
I think a great CX team means realizing that it's bigger than the CX team. It's the cross-functional groups that get involved and help build that momentum and become part of the solution. So it's the people who figure out what really needs to get done, how you're going to measure it, how you're going to track it, how you're going to prove out the ROI, how to get business cases approved, and so on. I think that's what makes a great team. It goes way beyond just the CX team, and it is where the real momentum is built.
Yeah, absolutely. Catherine, I know that you said you've been on the bench for a period over the last year, so that's perhaps given you a unique perspective on what makes a great team. So I would love to hear that.
I have two perspectives on that. The first one is that I told you before that I was playing basketball when I was younger, but I was also playing flag football, which is American football, but like soft football. And I think it's about putting the right person at the right place. Lawrence, you mentioned diversity. Like there is no diploma in CX. I don't think that there is a lot of person that graduate from university with a CX diploma. I didn't see that. So what make every expert great is the experience and the interest they have. Like your skill set is created with your previous experience, with what you've been before, what you've seen. So that's your expertise that you have. And I love doing with my teams the skill matrix, where you can see like how the players of your team, where they are good at, where they need to be trained. So you put the right person at the right place. And, when we play football, we can have the same set to go, but it's the QB is going to decide who make the pass to score. So I think that's that idea of knowing like who is better at which point on which project, so you can know like who to put in front from some project or to be successful on that. So there is all that like right person at the right place to the sport. And the other part on that CX is the team sport, is about to be a good team player. You need to take care of yourself. For the last 18 months as a CX expert, we thought a lot about the others. We wanted to make sure that companies succeed. We see CX as a good way like to go through COVID and provide great experience, even though we had like some crazy situation. But I think right now it's important for us as CX experts to take care of us, to evolve, develop ourselves. And that's why tonight in Montreal, our CX Day cocktail, the panel is about evolution of the role and how to train and develop ourselves as CX experts. So to be a good team player, you need to also take care of yourself.
Yeah, excellent perspective. And one of the things that strikes me, and I'm a huge fan of American football, is the fact that high performing and successful teams, the leaders of those teams, put their players in position to succeed by leveraging what they already do really well, and not asking them to do things that are not a match with their skill set, but instead putting them in positions to use the skills that they're really good at to do well. And so I'm sort of struck by the parallels there that you shared. That's fantastic. For us, what makes a great team in your mind?
Now, I believe there is no one thing that makes a great CX team. Like as with sports, a customer experience team needs a couple of things. They need a coach, a leader with a strategy, who sit in the shade and enjoy watching his player achieving great milestones. An organization that believes in them. Proper tools to attract and keep loyal fans. Winning teams understand that their success is measured by the organization success, not individual success.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I think that leads to my follow-on question, which is, we've started to discuss on what makes this team great, but then is there one piece of advice that you can give to our audience on how do you build that team? How do you maintain that team's high level of performance and motivate a CX team, especially in times that we're living through now? So Sandra, would like to start with you on this one.
I think the biggest piece of advice I would give is start out with people who are already kind and already empathetic, and work to help them encourage others to take action as well. Celebrate the successes no matter the size, and have fun. I mean, it doesn't have to always be super serious. So bringing out the best in each other and having fun, I think, is a big piece of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Every great leader I've ever had, CX or otherwise, has I think shared that philosophy around keeping things light. Absolutely. For us, would love to come back to you on this. How do you build this team? How do you motivate them?
Walk the talk. CX is all about happiness, satisfaction, loyalty, listening, consistency, meeting and exceeding expectation. Same with your team. Hire the right attitude, encourage happiness, listen to them, protect them, provide the tools, and empower them to use it. And of course, recognize them and give them the credit for their achievements.
Great. Catherine?
I think my advice will be when you need to hire a new expert, is to stop looking for training in CX or CX previous experience. I think the right CX expert will have a mix of knowledge, and you can train after for CX, but there is great experience that people can have. So to recruit, I think my answer is more to recruit, like stop looking for just CX, like there is a lot of great experts that don't have the CX previous experience, but that can be great, and you can always train for CX. And the other thing is that I have a lot of my, I'll say client, but I don't want to do promotion, but like, don't be shy to ask a consultant to train the trainer to come to your team and like help them develop their skills. I do that a lot with the customer I have, and I know we do that philosophy a lot, like to train the trainer to come in a project and just don't like come to do the project and go. We want to show and develop the expert. So I think that's a great thing to go and seek for help and seek for knowledge that can be people that can help your team to grow.
Yeah, I love that. And what I heard, a takeaway that I have from that is this idea of hiring for a fit for your culture as a top priority, and then looking at skills and qualifications. So great advice. Lawrence, over to you.
So I'm going to reiterate a lot of these salient points that everyone raised on this panel. Then that CX is a movement, and all movements need passion to propagate. So my advice would be, go out and find those who get excited about making the world a better place for their colleagues, for their customers, and as Sandra touched on, and enable them. If you have individuals that don't want to show up to serve others, then likely CX is not the best fit for them. And it really is that simple, right? You can train the rest, but it all starts there. So in terms of advice, I'd say put more strategic thought into who gets recruited into those roles. And if it's not a strategic initiative, the first piece should be surrounding yourself with the right folks that'll get the job done.
Yeah, great point. Would love the thoughts in the comments as well if any of the viewers have thoughts around how to best build and maintain a CX team. Okay, so one final question. Because CX Day is a chance to celebrate our accomplishments, as a chance to look towards the future, but it's also a chance to think about our own careers and how we can grow our careers within our own organizations or outside of our organization. So would love it if you could share one piece of career advice that you would give to a CX professional in your region to help enable their success. So Lawrence, I'll stick with you on this one to start.
So this one's from my own experience, and I'd say accept the world the way it is and not the way you want it to be. Being honest with the starting point, when you assume the role of owning CX programs, it's very easy to overlook this piece, especially when you're early on in your career, right? And neglecting that often leads to folks that have a burst of energy at the outset. They're overly optimistic. They have these rose-colored glasses. They're going to change the world. And they're refusing to accept all these obstacles that are around them. And over time, they start to feel the walls kind of caving in. And especially in the last few years, I've seen too many CX pros burn out after a year or two, feeling like they were beating their heads against the wall, and ultimately pivoting out to a more traditional marketing or sales role, which is really upsetting and such a shame when you see it happen. So as Einstein said, if you have 20 minutes to solve the world's problems, spend 15 of those 20 minutes understanding and articulating it before jumping into solution modes. I would say, be patient, be resilient, and know that as long as you're incrementally better than you were the day before, you're heading in the right direction.
Catherine?
If I have one piece of advice, I'm going to make it as a joke, but don't wait to do your CCXP certification. As you mentioned, Gabe, there is no excuse right now anymore about the French. So I'll just say, don't wait to do the CCXP certification. It's a great training, great skills, like recognition of your skills, but also like reminder of everything you need to tackle and need to know in CX to be a good CX expert. So I'll say just do your CCXP.
Sandra?
The biggest piece of advice I have is to remember you're not alone. If you're a CXPA member, you've got all of these resources available to you, but also as a Toronto member, you have the Toronto board, and we're there to help you find resources, whatever you need. If you need to find staff, if you need to find partners on projects, we can help you find that. And we get a lot of satisfaction out of being part of that.
Firas?
Well, for me, keep changing to maintain consistency. And I know it sounds weird, keep change to maintain consistency, but what I mean is you need to continuously keep learning, observe new trends, innovate a new solution and approaches to your clients. You need to keep delighting your customers and maintaining consistent, great customer experience all the way.
Firas, Lawrence, Catherine, and Sandra, thank you so much for joining us on this celebration of CX Day. The future of CX is bright in Canada and around the world, and we hope you will be joining us for other global panels like this one today, as we are featuring over 50 panelists, not just here in Canada, but Brazil, Africa, Asia, the US, the UK, the Middle East, Oceania, Latin America, and Europe. And if you're interested in becoming a CXPA member, there's never been a better time. You can take 20% off most products, including new individual membership at cxpa.org by using promo code CXDay2021. And if you are interested in learning more about the great work of CXPA networks in Canada, check out cxpa.org/Canada. So with that, take care, everyone. And from all of us at CXPA, wishing you a happy CX Day.